Bring the lights down low, it's time to show. Lights, camera, you know what we mean. Behold the magic of the silver screen. Some movies rock, some movies shock. They're powerful, alright. We cover them all on your favorite part. So many movies we can choose. Even when you win, you lose. Life moves pretty fast. Some will fizzle and some movies last. I understood there would be no math. It's the 30-something movie podcast. Be excellent to each other. Peace out and word to your mother. They're from the best decades. Movie magic that never fades. Lightsabers clash, phasers set to stun. Action packed from dusk till dawn. We have deep thoughts and questions free. Come share our love of the movies we see. Life moves pretty fast. Some will fizzle and some movies last. I understood there would be no math. It's the 30-something movie podcast.
Yeah, it's a 30-something movie podcast. This time around, we've got a very special episode. This is the end of our Jim Carrey month, and we went through all the movies that he did because he was a madman in 1994 and made 3 different movies. We've already talked about Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber. And so what was the 4th thing, you might ask, that he did in 1994? Because he apparently was either crazy or just really, really wanted to make some of that money, that sweet, sweet movie money. He was in a little TV show called In Living Color.
In living color. In living color.
You walk on the moon, float like a balloon. You see, it's never too late and it's never too soon. Take it from me, it's I to be.
In living color.
And how would you feel knowing prejudice was out?
Little Heavy D with the In Living Color theme.
Yeah, I mean, this show, like, it's kind of crazy when you look at all of the people who were in it and who were peripherally involved. Like Jennifer Lopez was one of the fly girls dancing in the intros and in the interstitials. It's just amazing what they did with this thing.
So and this is kind of a question that we're going to get into later on when we get into our 3 questions, but as a family, I just remember we really enjoyed all the sketch comedy shows. In Living Color, I remember the only reason I probably watched In Living Color was because my parents were watching it. My dad loved the show. My dad loved Saturday Night Live. Like we had the VHS tapes of Saturday Night Live, the first 5 years. Saturday Night Live, the best of Chevy Chase, the best of Steve Martin. Like we had all those VHS tapes. If we didn't have them, I was probably checking them out from the library.
Sure.
I'm astounded that my lovely wife stuck around because when we first started dating, that's probably all we watched for a good stretch of time. So mercifully, she was able to get past that. But yeah, I mean, in my house, it was the sketch comedy shows. It was, Monty Python's Flying Circus. It was In Living Color. It was Saturday Night Live. And then on my own, ones that I know, my dad did not watch, I was always a fan of The Kids in the Hall. When that show was on, I did like a little bit of Mad TV. I wasn't as much of a fan of Mad TV, but, some of that stuff here and there. But yeah, the sketch comedy shows were always a lot of fun. And this one, for a pretty decent stretch of time, this one even probably, I feel like there was probably this stretch of time when In Living Color was on that my dad did not care for Saturday Night Live as much. Like it wasn't the 70s folks. It wasn't the original cast. It wasn't even some of the stuff.
They
80s,
started doing math, and and once you abandon the thought that there can be math, I mean, I feel like, what are you gonna do?
It was my understanding that there would be no math.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah. So no, this was regular viewing in our house from 1990 to 1994. The whole time it was on.
Mm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I did not watch it, quote unquote, live in first run.
Okay.
I saw it probably somewhere between 5 and 10 years ago. Unfortunately, I couldn't tell you when.
Yeah.
We stumbled upon watching it on reruns on one of the cable channels.
Yeah.
Probably in a summer when we were, looking for something to watch. And it was something that my wife had enjoyed as a kid. And so, not as a kid, as a young adult, I suppose we'll say.
Yeah.
So we watched it, and it was great.
Yeah. Oh, and I apologize. I didn't even mention SCTV.
Oh, yeah. How could we forget?
I know. Well, and it's interesting going back and rewatching some of the In Living Color. I'll come out and say it this way. I don't think my family was the target demographic of In Living Color, but we still really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to hear you say that. I kind of came at it differently. I'm where Bo was 5 to 10 years ago, where heard some things, but need to sit down and watch it. Like I haven't seen much of it at all. And I remember friends had quoted it and everything. And I'm kind of, my folks were big with this original, 70s cast of Saturday Night Live.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But they, it wasn't like they thought it, didn't want me watching that In Living Color or any of that kind of stuff, or Don't Stay Up Late. It just wasn't something that my folks chose to watch. And I'm kind of thinking back, like, well, why didn't we have that on when we'd go over to each other's house and watch movies and all that? And that was always my understanding, is that In Living Color was a little bit more for that younger generation, not kids, but just like the not adult group.
Yeah.
And it's like every time there's a sketch comes on, it's absolutely hilarious, but I just haven't watched it. You know what I'm saying? So I find it, when you say like your family's watched it, and mine just weren't into it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that they weren't, that they didn't like it or had something against it. It was not their bag.
Yeah. Well, and Bo, you mentioned like so many people on this show that would get big later on, and there were.
Well, yeah, Jim Carrey, the Wayans,
Jamie Foxx,
Jennifer Lopez, Jamie Foxx,
David Allen Greer.
David, yep.
Yeah.
It just kept, the hits kind of just kept coming.
Yeah. Yeah. And there were, we're kind of specifically talking about, and I think it's fine if we branch out beyond Jim Carrey, but one of our focuses for this episode is to kind of talk about his best skits and the ones we like best. But even just some of the other ones, I don't recall, if anything, he was a background character, but obviously probably the most well-known is Homie the Clown.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And try to find.
Homie, don't play that.
Right. Try to find an elementary to middle school kid who wasn't repeating Homie, don't play that somewhere on the playground in America in the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That catchphrase was all over the place. My dad would even tell me that. Like if I asked him a question and he didn't want to do it, he's like, no, Homie, don't play that game.
Wow.
That's outstanding.
Yeah, I was going back and rewatching some of those skits not too long ago, and that stuff is hilarious. Some of the stuff, the men on segments, like men on football, men on books, men on film, that kind of stuff. I'm like, okay, funny, but not today.
Yeah.
Like that. Can't. What was the Nickelodeon show? You can't do that on television.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, can't do that on television today. But yeah, there were some other skits as I was looking through a bunch of the Jim Carrey ones. There were even some that I was like, all right, that one's That's a little awkward.
Oh yeah.
What was it? The dysfunctional home repair show
Mm-hmm.
where he was like the old drunk grandpa, and he was constantly trying to end his own life. And I
Yeah.
was like, "Ooh, that's yeah." I vaguely remember this character, but I don't remember that.
Yeah, there were a few times where I was like, okay,
Yeah.
sure.
And I will say, in all honesty, there were a few times that I was like, now, and it'll be one of the skits that I mention when we talk about the Jim Carrey ones. But there were a couple times where I was like, ooh, yeah, we just got done talking about this when we talked about Ace Ventura.
Mm-hmm.
Can I still find this funny? I find it funny. Is it okay that I find it funny?
Yeah.
To which,
Maybe-
I say
maybe.
yes.
Yeah. So yeah, let's go ahead. We can go ahead and dive on into some of that. First of all, let's even just do beyond the Jim Carrey stuff. What were some of your skits when you did watch In Living Color? Like, what were some of your favorites? Obviously, Homie the Clown is probably going to come up.
Yeah,
in
Homie was
almost
a big
every
one.
list.
I really liked. That's a Jim Carrey one, so we were going to talk about that one anyway. hmm.
And if they're Jim Carrey ones, we can go ahead and
Well,
dive.
Fire Marshal Bill
Oh,
is just a classic.
Yeah.
Um,
I love the one where he's in space. Of course, they're reusing the Enterprise set that they had used for the Wrath of Farrakhan.
yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That and I don't remember which of those would have come first, but they were just reusing that same set, probably the same costumes and everything. And I love the one where he sticks his hand in the liquid nitrogen and then shatters it. And, yeah. And this is what you don't do. And he like sets everything on fire. And yeah, Fire Marshal Bill was crazy.
Let me show you something.
Yeah. Does your dad smoke a pipe? Does he ever fall asleep while he's smoking a pipe? Does this ever happen? Well, we can dive right on into some of the Jim Carrey stuff too. Fire Marshal Bill, hilarious.
The Homeboy Shopping Network.
Oh, I don't remember that one.
Streetwise pitchmen named Wiz and Iceman.
Oh.
Damon and Keenan.
Okay.
Home Network style approach to sell stolen goods.
Oh, there we go.
That was good.
There was that, knowing how much most of the people in my family just really, really love Mr. Rogers. I don't think I can ever show them the skit where Jim Carrey is Mr. Rogers at the video store.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Although at the end of that skit, he, the lady of the night that he's walking off with does ask him, "Are you really Mr. Rogers?" He's like, "No," but the money's real.
When Damon Wayans would do Richard Pryor.
Oh yeah,
that stuff was good.
One of my favorites, and I just remember it because everybody was singing the song at the time too, was when he came on, and at first I think I probably couldn't even tell that it was Jim Carrey. When he came on and did, like the dancers were out, it looked like it was one of the segments with the Fly Girls, and he came out and did Vanilla Ice's White White Baby.
Yes.
I love that one. Like that was probably, as a kid at the time, like between that and You Can't Touch This were probably two of my favorite songs at the time. And then to have him come out, and at first I'm looking at that, I'm thinking, oh cool, they got Vanilla Ice for the show. And then realizing that, wait, hold on just a second. That's not Vanilla Ice.
Anything with Wanda.
Oh yeah.
Wanda cracked me up.
Mm-hmm.
The Jim Carrey dating game with Wanda was pretty good.
Oh yeah.
The PSAs that they did, the Y series.
Mm-hmm.
There was a Star Trek one in there.
He was fun as the high school guidance counselor.
Yes.
Like all the kids would be like, I really think I want to be a painter. Sure. Yeah, right. Uh-huh. And then he just like low into this whole thing. Have you ever thought about the military? Well, I want to be a ballet dancer. Have you ever thought of stripping?
Oh my God, that got a little cringy watching that one.
Some of it did.
Oh,
It got a little
yes.
cringy. The general concept of it, just his reactions, and was hilarious.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I'm hearing you guys talk, and I'm just going to have to take notes. And this is where I should go because this is just all very. I just have not seen the show.
The Mike Tyson stuff was really good. They did him a couple of times. They had him on the Love Connection, or do I have the Love Connection and the Dating Game backwards? Love Connection was Wanda, Dating Game was Mike.
Oh,
I might have those backwards.
Yeah.
But the Mike Tyson stuff is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some of the riffs they did on movies, you know, Passenger 227.
Mm-hmm.
You already mentioned the Wrath of Farrakhan.
Oh, that's
That
probably
one
one of
was
my
good.
that's one of my favorite skits of the whole show.
That's amazing.
That's one of my favorite skits. Because he does a great, I mean, he did it in Ace Ventura, but he does a great William Shatner impersonation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He seems to have that in a lot of his work, like the Star Trek riff or
Mm-hmm.
And is it just that his William Shatner impersonation is so good, or is he like a Star Trek fan and loves it, lampooning it?
Right.
I think it might be a little bit of both. I mean, if you think about it, just the Jim Carrey of it all is a little over the top William Shatner before you even start, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Wrath of Farrakhan. I love that one because as he's starting to kind of turn the crew against him.
Yes.
Yeah, and I love. I think it's David Alan Grier is playing Spock in that one, and he's like, "What is this? We, Captain? I am the smartest and strongest on the ship, and yet I'm the second in command." and then, and then when they finally take him out, it's Mr. Sulu, chart a course to Sylvia's Soul Food Shack. Mr. Sulu, what are you going to have? Sylvia.
No, Sylvia.
Oh my.
Oh my, exactly.
So some of the other ones that I was going to mention on here, have you seen the one of Bob Jackson, karate instructor?
Yes.
Yeah. The one where he's trying to teach, it's a bunch of women and he's teaching a self-defense class. And he's like, okay, here's what I want you to do. I'm going to give you a knife. Well, this looks like a real knife. It is a real knife. All right, now I want you to attack me like you'd be attacking someone. And he's like absolutely horrible at karate. And he keeps getting stabbed, like actually stabbed, and he's bleeding out. And he's like, okay, all right, see that time? Okay, you got me like right in between the ribs. But that time you were holding the knife wrong. Okay, what you're doing there is you're holding it wrong. You got to hold it like this. And I think somebody like stabs him a second time.
And they go so far, like, it's just comical because, like, no one ever holds a knife like that. Like, that's not a thing.
Right. The one I was a little bit concerned about as to how it might be seen today is the exercise segment, Buffed, Beautiful, and Bitchin', starring Vera De Milo.
Yeah.
Because that is one of the most memorable sketches of Jim Carrey's on the show. But at the same time, I'm like, ooh, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how that flies today. Because he's supposed to be playing a kind of probably overly steroided, very, very buff woman. And he's got the little teeny tiny pigtails and, even for Jim Carrey, he drops his voice down like this. So it's like real deep and real husky. And I'm Vera De Milo. And it's like, yeah, I don't. Might be why we don't see it on reruns as much anymore.
It's true.
No. But yeah, I remember just in different, and I'm trying to think of where I would have seen it in reruns because it might have just been clips of different sketch comedy shows. But Wrath of Farrakhan was always a favorite. Like that was always one of the tops. The karate instructor one, the white baby, where he's Vanilla Ice. He would do some of the skits where he was just like background guy, and they'd be trying to do something serious, and he's like dancing around.
Background
like
guys, yeah. Those are funny.
Yeah, the creepy Mr. Rogers was funny, but maybe only share that one with certain people.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, Bo, did you have any other favorites? Any that we haven't mentioned yet? Or?
Oh no, I mean I think I took too many favorites already.
Yeah, it's crazy to me that on top of the 3 movies that we've talked about for this month, that he was also, and I believe he was in every episode of this show. So he was. I had thought that there was a time that he wasn't, but I was obviously wrong. Yeah. Yeah, at least according to the IMDb, the IMDb, that I believe he probably was on every single episode of this. And like I think I said, I don't know if it was last week or this week, that starting with season 4, you had some of the others start to kind of drop out because of disputes with the network and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So. Yeah. Well, do you guys have? I'm gonna throw in some. I'll throw in some clips and other things like that. I figured this one would be a little bit shorter because we're talking about a sketch comedy show. So I'm gonna throw in some clips and stuff like that to kind of fill out a little bit of this one. But do you guys have anything else before we go into the 3 questions?
For me, it's just like, thanks for the inspiration to watch it, because I really only was familiar with the clips that you shared. Like, hey, brush up on these Jim Carrey ones, and it's like, man, like the stuff you're mentioning, it's like, okay, I remember friends talking about it, but I've just never seen that. So,
and
yeah, I'm excited.
I want
to go
say
back and
most
watch.
of it's on YouTube. I think.
Okay.
I think you'll be able to find almost all the stuff we've mentioned so far. I think you'd be able to find it on YouTube.
Awesome.
I got to go back and watch more Homie clips because I remember that.
Homie, don't play that.
And then didn't he have? Was it like a sock full of quarters that he'd hit people with, or what was it that he would? He had something he was always hitting people with.
Yeah, and it's funny, I didn't watch any of those because Jim Carrey wasn't in
Jim
many.
Carrey ones, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had a couple of other skits too. It was like there was one of like a prison magician.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what that one was called, but yeah. Yeah.
Well, speaking of magicians, the Fire Marshal Bill magician bit was, God.
Yeah.
But you said sometimes you've said recently Jim Carrey bits sometimes go on a little too long, and some of the Fire Marshal Bill stuff does too.
Yeah, there were sometimes like, we could have cut that a little shorter. Yeah.
That was fun. Yeah. Now it's over.
Yeah. We could have probably ended the Fire Marshal Bill in space skit after the alien burst out of his chest.
Right, which by the way was awesome.
Which is hilarious. Well,
but at that point, that's it.
which is, I mean, some of it is, that's be careful there. Because there's like a jar of liquid and he starts drinking out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody goes, somebody stop him. He's drinking the aliens. And he just looks at the jar and he goes, well, that's how they're getting across the border. I'm like, oh dear.
Yeah, that one, I was like, okay, well, yeah.
Because then you knew what was going to happen, because then somebody goes, there's one missing. And I'm like, oh, that's coming directly out of his chest.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was, it was painfully obvious. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think it is going to be time for 3 questions.
He asks each traveler 5 questions. 3 questions. 3 questions.
It's impossible to answer.
Impossible because you don't know the answer.
Nobody could answer that question.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
All righty then. Number 1, what is your favorite sketch comedy show?
Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a hard
Especially like the original cast for me.
Like the 1975.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, when this episode comes out, we are 2 weeks away from the Saturday Night Live movie coming out. Did you guys hear about this one?
I did not.
They are doing a movie called Saturday Night, and it is supposed to be about the day of their first episode airing and everything that they go through to get that thing on the air.
Wow.
It's like,
That sounds fun.
I think the movie is supposed to start like the afternoon before they're about to film that first live episode, and they've got a bunch of is it Jason Reitman, I think, is directing, Ivan Reitman's son.
Okay.
It is coming out. I believe it's coming out October 11th.
Oh, okay.
Which oddly enough, October 11th, 1975 was when the first episode of Saturday Night Live aired. So
coincidentally enough. Right on. That should be amazing.
What a coincidence. Yeah, so I actually want to go see that one because I think I watched a little bit of the trailer, and part of me thought like, yeah, how are they going to find people that really kind of, have the same mannerisms as like a Chevy Chase and a John Belushi and they did. Okay. Like the trailer looks really good.
Well, and you got to figure there's enough footage on those guys.
Right.
You find a good actor, you can probably make that happen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that one. This one was actually kind of tough for me because growing up, I mean, we always watched Saturday Night Live. Like it was just pretty much expected that you would know like all the hits from Saturday Night Live, the Super Bassomatic, the Hot Tub, James Brown, Hot Tub, Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood.
Hello, children.
All the Weekend Updates. Jane, you
all the political Jane, you ignorant. Yeah. All the political stuff, the stuff with Ford, and it just kept going,
It's my understanding there would be no math.
There would be no math. Yeah, Saturday Night Live's got to be the king.
It is.
Yeah.
The reason I had a hard time with it is because then especially when we moved over to England, but even just a little bit before that, there was Monty Python's Flying Circus.
Okay.
And I have a really hard, just knowing for sheer amount of time, Saturday Night Live has been on like 10 times longer than any of the other sketch shows.
Right.
Sure.
So even when it was at like its lowest low, you can focus on the highs. You can be like, okay, I mean, maybe the late 80s was a bit, and then, we came back in the early to mid 90s, and we, that was kind of the Daryl Hammond era. You started with Will Ferrell, and you got some of those folks in, and Tina Fey and all those as you got closer to the, 2000s. And, but then I go back to like Monty Python's Flying Circus. I'm like, oh man, some of that stuff was just so good. And I have a hard time deciding like overall which of these two, but I think it's still got to be Saturday Night Live. And even then, Kids in the Hall. Like I loved Kids in the Hall. I would, if you'd asked me this question in the late 90s, I would have said Kids in the Hall was probably my favorite sketch comedy show. And crashing your head.
I can see that.
Crashing your head. And pinching your face. And pinching your face. Yeah. All right, number 2. Who is your favorite physical comedian? Physical comedian, slapstick comedian. What do you got? You going old with the Buster Keatons or the Charlie Chaplins? Are you going Robin Williams, Dick Van Dyke?
Robin Williams definitely came to mind instantly. But when I think physical comedy, I go all the way back to the Three Stooges.
That was also my answer. Certainly.
I mean, there's nothing like them.
I am the same as both. Like Robin Williams first came to mind, but you got to go back to the Three Stooges.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the Steve Martin physical bits are great, but something about the classics, man.
Disorder in the Court.
Oh, do we cheat him and how? Paging Dr. Howard. Yeah, it is so good.
Take off your hat. Raise your right hand. Now put your left hand here. Please take off your hat. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? Why don't you answer him? He's talking pig Latin. I don't know what he's saying. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Certainly. What have I got to lose? Take the stand. Where do I put it? No. Take the stand. I got it. Now what do I do with it? Kindly address this court as your honor and take the oath. Thanks, my honor.
Thanks, my honor. Exactly. Not my honor, your honor.
Yeah. What's the other one? The other one I always loved, because that was another one. We'd go to the video store and I would check out like the best of the Three Stooges videotapes and just watch those nonstop. And my other favorite ones of theirs was when they were the plumbers.
Oh,
and it was like everything was flooding, and that poor Curly was trying to put the pipes all together, and he kept getting splashed in the face. And then you cut back to him after a few minutes, and he has just completely encased himself in lead pipes. There was that one. There was another one where they were in kind of like what they thought was a haunted house. And I remember there was a bird that somehow crawled inside of a skull and was like flying around the house and chasing them around the house, and they thought it was haunted. Yeah. So, yeah, Three Stooges. And I thought the same thing. Like immediately Robin Williams came to mind. I was like, ooh, Robin Williams, Dick Van Dyke, Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin, like all those guys are awesome. And then I thought, well, physical comedy, what am I like when I immediately think slapstick physical comedy? I got to go Three Stooges. Abbott and Costello are up there, but I think it's because as a kid, I would watch the Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein nonstop. But I think for sheer volume of the stuff that I watched as a kid, it's got to be Three Stooges.
Nice.
All right, and to finish off Jim Carrey month with our last question, and this can be TV, this can be movie, anything you want. Most memorable Jim Carrey performance. And when I say that, I mean when you picture Jim Carrey, what is the single most memorable? What's the performance that you tie to his name and his face?
Ace Ventura.
Okay.
The stuff. Do you have a dorsal fit? Like.
Yeah.
Oh, and I know he does the alrighty then in other places, but in Ace Ventura, it was the thing. Like, alrighty then.
Yeah.
And he uses it in so many different ways. Like it can be alrighty then. All right. Like he can. That same phrase can be used with so many different emotions. Like that.
Righty then.
Yeah. Yeah. Ace Ventura. Yeah. And, he probably would shake his head and go, ugh, why that? Yeah. Why are you choosing that? But that's the one that sticks out.
Guys, I was in a horror movie called The Number 23. Did you not see that one?
Did you not? Right.
Yeah. I even grew my hair out for that one. You didn't see me in the Lincoln commercials on Saturday Night Live when I played Matthew McConaughey? You didn't see those? Those were absolutely great, by the way, when he was Matthew McConaughey.
They were
on
very
Saturday
good.
Night Live. That was,
yes.
and even his Joe Biden was pretty good too.
Yeah. He did rock the Aviators well.
Yeah. Patrick, what is your all-time favorite one Jim Carrey performance?
I'm finding everything you guys are saying, I'm kind of plus oneing. It's Ace Ventura is what comes to mind when I think of Jim Carrey. That being said, Truman Show is, I think, just,
yes.
I love the character. I love the story. I like what he does with it.
Yeah.
So I would say Truman Show.
Okay. You guys are also hitting my number one. I immediately, and maybe it's because I used to show clips of it in my class when I would, I think particularly when
you had some class.
When why don't you call me sometime when you have no class? Yeah, I used to show clips of it. I think when we were reading, The Giver, the novel, there were certain things about that, and like somebody being in a world where they didn't know entirely what was going on and didn't know that they were being watched and all this other stuff. And I think sometimes I would use the Truman Show as an example of, here's another example of this. And, here's how the characters are reacting to discovering some life-altering event and whatnot. That is probably my favorite movie of his, is the Truman Show. So if I'm going favorite movie, it's that. For me, yes, Ace Ventura, I think, is one of the ones that I immediately, when you picture or say the name Jim Carrey, I immediately go to that. For me, I think the most memorable of his, and I think it's because I had the connection to having read the comic books and then seeing the movie, is going to be The Mask.
There you go.
That one for me. But if I'm talking about absolute favorite, most memorable Jim Carrey performance, it's going to be The Truman Show. All right. That's going to bring Jim Carrey month. And it's a little crazy that we were able to dedicate an entire month to just one actor because he had so many movies this year. But when I was doing the list of movies, I was like, oh, wait, that's a Jim Carrey movie. That's a Jim Carrey movie. That's a Jim Carrey movie. Well, there's 4 weeks in September. What else? Oh, In Living Color. He did that too. So that worked out well. So yes, this has been Jim Carrey month. Our Patreon episode this month is Blazing Saddles. You can find that over there on Patreon if you join us. At any level of support over there, you get access to the bonus feed. Patreon short this month is Beetlejuice. And then this month we had Ace Ventura, we had The Mask, we had Dumb and Dumber last week, and then this week was In Living Color. And I am happy to report that I can now share with you our slate of movies for next month. And October, of course, is our horror Halloween month. Always really, really excited about all that stuff. I think we're definitely going to have a guest on here with us, Rob Perry, one of our friends, one of our Patreon co-executive producers, loves the horror movies as well, and I think he is very excited about the slate of movies we've got coming up, so I think he's going to be spending quite a bit of time with us during the month of October this year. Over on Patreon, our Patreon full-length episode over there is going to be Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974, hitting its 50th anniversary this year. Our Patreon shorts are going to be Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation, which comes from 1994, the year that we're currently in for the rest of our movies. And then if I get a chance to go see it, there's the new Joker movie, Joker Folie à Deux, which seems really strange that they're mashing up Hot Shots and the Joker. It's like a weird mashup.
It's an odd combination, but
Yeah. So interesting. We'll see how it goes. Weird that they decided to replace Joaquin Phoenix with Charlie Sheen. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, well, tiger blood and all.
Right. Winning. And then we've got De la Mort. We've got Interview with the Vampire. We've got Wes Craven's New Nightmare. We've got Wolf. And we've got In the Mouth of Madness. So we've got some good horror Halloween stuff coming up over the course of the next month. So hopefully you join us for that there. I'll be excited to pull out. I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to try to put together some kind of a new... I always enjoy doing the Halloween music for the Halloween episodes for the month of October. A little bit of a different intro. I don't know if I can do a Halloween version of our new intro that we've got. I'll have to play around a bit, see what I can do there. That might be kind of fun. All right. On that note, thank you, Pat. Thank you, Bo.
Thank you, John.
All right, everybody. We will see you back here next time. So come on back in October for our horror movies. We'll have a good time, a scary time. We'll hold Pat's hand, help him get through it. 'Cause you've been doing a lot better the last several years.
I've been doing good. I've been embracing the change.
You have. You've embraced the paradox.
I have used this show as a point of growth.
You have. Yeah.
So
yeah, some of us grow horizontally, and you grow in maturity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you say I grow in maturity, or did you say I grow immaturity?
That's a good question. I think I said the first thing.
Both are true.
Whatever
Okay.
it was self-effacing on my part, but it was nice towards you.
Well, that just sounds like, what a testament to just what a wonderful human being you are.
Well, let's not say things we probably should take back immediately.
Let's not go getting excited.
Just when you get to work tomorrow, and I've cut all the wires and made sure that we all get to go home early because there's no Wi-Fi. Then
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I did have somebody at work ask me that the other day. They're like, "Hey, by the way, any chance you could just I don't know, go into one of those tech closets and bump into the wrong server today?" I mean, I could, sure. That was the one particular day where we had one of our schools that had to close because they had no power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
I heard about that. I was actually surprised that you didn't just shut the whole thing down.
Yeah, no, it's just those kids will just be behind. They'll have one less day of school and they'll just have to play catch up.
It'll be fine.
It'll be all right. We'll just accelerate things a little bit. The teachers it'll be like podcasts. The teachers will talk at 1.25 speed the next day.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
You can get through the episodes. Well, gentlemen, that's it for Jim Carrey month. Onward into horror month. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to having our buddy Rob Perry join us for a bunch of those episodes.
Yeah.
So it'll be good to catch up with him. But in the meantime, everybody be excellent to each other. You have plenty of choices. Go watch some Jim Carrey stuff, and we'll see you back here next time.
Bring the lights down low, it's time to show. Lights, camera, you know what we mean. Behold the magic of the silver screen. Some movies rock, some movies shock. They're powerful, alright. We cover them all on your favorite part. So many movies we can choose. Even when you win, you lose. Life moves pretty fast. Some will fizzle and some movies last. I understood there would be no math. It's the 30-something movie podcast. Be excellent to each other. Peace out and word to your mother. They're from the best decades. Movie magic that never fades. Lightsabers clash, phasers set to stun. Action packed from dusk till dawn. We have deep thoughts and questions free. Come share our love of the movies we see. Life moves pretty fast. Some will fizzle and some movies last. I understood that